Good afternoon. It's Kim Hamer with 100 Acts of Love, How to Help When Cancer Strikes. And today we're going to talk about death in the workplace. It's a super uncomfortable conversation, but it's one that needs to be had because when you are managing an employee with cancer, they might die. Or if you're managing an employee who is with someone affected by cancer, they might die. And I know this because that was exactly my experience. My husband died from cancer at the age of 44. So from that moment, I set out not from that moment, that's such a lie. Lots of stuff happened in between, but a couple years later, I wrote a book. And then here I am helping HR teams and managers support employees affected by cancer. Because the thing that we often forget is cancer is not a one person thing. It's not like it affects one person and that's it. Cancer affects your ability to manage your team. Cancer affects your team. Cancer can affect your whole organization. And so when there is a cancer diagnosis, many managers don't even consider this. So that's what I do. I help the managers consider this and also work through it. So today we're going to talk about cancer and death. In the case of my husband, his company knew that he was dying, but only a couple days before he was dying, before he died. And that was because the doctor finally told me that, hey, look, it's over. And he's probably going to live for another 4 or 5 days, but that's going to be it. So, thankfully, before that, friends had gotten together with us and made sure that we had this very important thing in line before he died. And you're going to ask what it is, and I'm going to tell you it's a lawyer, and it's a little estate planning. Now, we made sure we had a will, but we didn't do anything with estate planning at that time in our lives. And so it's something that, it's a difficult it's the number one thing, or maybe not the number one thing, but it's the thing that I think is really important. And it's a really easy way to support your employee with cancer. Because having a lawyer ask really important end of life questions is going to save the family a lot of heartache, and will also could save you, the organization, a lot of unanswered questions as well. So I want to go over these. I think there's like 7 different ways that a professional employee with cancer, and a professional lawyer is what I'm talking about. All right. So the first way it's very simple. Do they have a will? And many people just don't ever get around to having a will because it feels, one, so overwhelming, and two, nobody likes to talk about death. So having a will is something really important, and obviously, and you can help your employee who is dying set that up for their family. The second thing is it's really nice to be able to make last minute gifts. And of course, most people don't know anything about estate tax, but if your employee is in that tax bracket where estate tax might become an issue, then having a lawyer help them set up some last minute gifts before their demise, before they die. I'm not even going to use the word demise. Let's use the word that really talks about what we're talking about here. Before they die, if you have a lawyer who can help them give gifts away at the time, that's really helpful. Clarifying ownership of property. And sometimes we think it's all cut and dry, but it's not all cut and dry. If your employee is in a partnership that's not an official partnership, well, then there might be some issues about property ownership, cars, cabins, houses, even animals can be up for grabs if there's not some very clearly lined up, hey, this belongs to so and so, or when I die, this is going to so and so. Another way a lawyer can be very helpful is with taxes, taxable gains, and deductible losses, everything else like that. So I think a great example, I'm reading this right now, a great example is take unused losses now by selling, because they're generally forfeited at death, because estate assets will be valued state assets will be valued as the date of death. So, if you have some losses that you have accrued this year, and this is a year that's been market's been sort of up and down, then that is a great option for you. Um, Arrange for the maximum return and the minimum tax bite on pensions. If your company offers a pension, or if your employee has worked at organizations that offer pensions, this is really important. Something else which I have firsthand knowledge of that a lawyer could help your family with is making sure that there's life insurance and making sure that the proper things are set up for the life insurance. And generally, if it's end of death or near the end of life, most insurance companies aren't going to insure this person. But if there is a life insurance policy, just make sure it's set up correctly. And then lastly, you can reduce probate costs by creating trusts. So there's no time like the present of putting all the savings and everything that you have in everything that your employee has in a trust so that it is safe from other taxable income. Now, that's just a partial list, really. I mean, it's a good list, but it's a partial list. So the question is, okay, you're the manager, you know that your employee is dying and you would like to help, and the company has agreed to pay for a lawyer or maybe has an in-house lawyer. And I want to take a moment to mention that in-house corporate lawyers are not estate lawyers. And so, yes, your in-house corporate lawyer may be very helpful, but sometimes it's probably going to be better to refer out to an estate lawyer. So, how do you approach this topic with your employee who's dying or who has a partner who's dying? How do you talk about this? Because it's uncomfortable. Like I said, death is not like something that we openly express and talk about at cocktail hour. So the first thing you want to do is I would, of course, you probably have a contact person who may not be the employee with cancer, but you have a contact person that you can talk to. So this is assuming that the employee is no longer working. So you have a contact person you can talk to, and you can approach it with them. Say, hey, we as an organization would like to help them with, end of life things. And one of those things we'd like is to help them with getting them a lawyer. We've got a lawyer. We think he or she's a great person, and we want to gift this lawyer to the employee so that they can make sure everything is in order. So that's the first thing. You want to have a lawyer in mind, or if they have a lawyer in mind, you want to use that. But you don't want to give them the gift and then have them go search for a lawyer, because that's a pain in the ass. And, it's end of life, not high priority on the high priority list. So make sure that you have a lawyer in line, and that you approach this person. If you don't have that contact person, then approach the partner, the sister, the brother, someone who's on the emergency contact list, and approach them with the topic. If the employee is of sound mind, then you can certainly approach them. Like, sometimes that it's coming, and it's coming in 3 or 4 months. And so there is time to have that conversation with the employee. But if there's not, if you just find out, my husband's situation was 4 days before he died, you can reach out to a friend, a partner, a brother or sister of the employee, and you can also try to reach out to the employee. But they're probably not going to be, at least in my experience, they're probably not going to be with it enough to make those kind of decisions. So that's the first thing: is make sure you got your ducks in line. You have an estate attorney you would like. Make sure you know how much you want to spend. That's another piece. If they have their own attorney, you can say, hey, we're willing to gift you up to $2,000, $3,000 worth of services, right? So you can do that as well. If the employee is still working, which does happen, talk to the employee directly, and just sit down and have an honest conversation. Y'all, I think the hardest thing about this is people are so scared to have these really kind of honest conversations. Your employee told you that they are dying. So that's an honest conversation that they've opened up. And so you can continue that conversation. So sit down with them and say, hey, we'd like to gift you this. Is this something that you could use that would be helpful? And they will say yes, or they will say no. And if they say no, just double check and make sure, is it because you already have something in line, or is it something else? Because sometimes people say no right off the bat because they don't want to deal with it themselves, and they may come back to you a month later, or you can always offer a month later. So just make sure you try to find out a little bit about why they're saying no if they say no. If they say yes, get the information about who you need, who this person needs to go see, and make sure that that information is not just going to the person, your employee with cancer, but also to somebody else who is sort of working with them. It could be a friend, a partner, a spouse, a sibling, a parent, something like that. So yeah, that's really kind of it. It's a really sweet and great gift. And it's also a gift that keeps on giving, because there's nothing like knowing that things are sort of taken care of for the family who is going to be left behind, and that you have, help them safeguard their income and their assets, is a huge gift. So, yep, that's it. That's what I wanted to share with you today, talking about what's one thing, this is the one thing you can do to support your employee who is dying. All right, y'all. If you want to know 5 things never, ever, ever to say to anybody dealing with cancer and what to say instead, I'm going to leave the link in the description below so you can go ahead and download that. And if you have an employee with cancer and you're not sure what to do and you're not sure what to say, and you feel really confused, and you know the company can do more than they're doing, but you're not sure what that is, please give me a call. Let's have a quick strategy session to understand where you are and how I could possibly support you, your employee with cancer, and your team. All right, y'all, have a really wonderful day. And please remember, talking to you matter. All right, take care.